very important, I think, developments which are happening in the areas of the fintech. And I think that is where some of the larger banks are going to be playing a role. That's where probably I think I would like to go with companies like HDFC Bank, HDFC Limited combined, where the significant amount of initiatives have been taken for creating a front end for lending, which is basically going to solve a larger part of the issue of, I think, extending the reach to the end customer. And at the same time, bringing down, I think, a cost of processing the transaction significantly. Now, this particular format is now emerging for a larger bank like HDFC Bank, which is going to be a combined bank with HDFC along with, and I think with all other investments into the subsidiaries. I believe that I think with around 50 lakh crore worth of AUM, if inside, I think in somewhere 2025-26, I think one could possibly go for such kind of a larger banking proposition, which is now emerging very, very clearly. So this is one organization, one bank, I think, which should be there in the portfolio as far as I think we look at our investment strategy. Similarly, I think some of the ideas, again, I think coming in from the large cap direction, but at the same time investing into the mid caps. And that's where probably I think I would include companies like Minda, Minda, where the business of the company is closely linked with the OEMs. And some of the best OEMs are, I think, their customers also in India and abroad. So from that perspective too, with the kind of growth which we are seeing in commercial vehicle, in passenger vehicle, and the segments in which this company is operating, I would think that I think this is an opportunity going forward for investors from the investment point of view. Maybe I think currently the market is not giving enough preference to the auto ancillary. But in my viewpoint, I think this is a time when probably one could add selectively into the portfolio such kind of quality stock ideas.
Which is one stock where you're giving up. You say, okay, earnings are there, fundamentally the stock is cheap, but ultimately it's all about generating superior returns and the cost of opportunity is better elsewhere. Which is one stock where you're tired of waiting?
So fortunately, I think in my portfolio, I think one stock, there are not many such stocks except one, which is Tata Motors. I think the company, which has always been, I think, doing well, except I think the problems that they have been facing into JLR portfolio. The domestic market portfolio, both commercial vehicle, passenger vehicle, I think what a smart comeback in this particular segment. JLR is testing the patience, definitely for sure. But I do understand, I think, the kind of workouts which are happening into the organization. So it gives me, I think, relatively more amount of clarity that not that everything is lost. Probably, I think in such cases, you at times, I think, taste your patience. But at the same time, I think if you are clear with the fundamentals of the business, I think possibly you will get rewarded and rewarded handsomely in such kind of opportunities. So this is where probably I think one requires to carry a lot of conviction in the business. In my viewpoint, I think the majority of the portfolio stocks that we are carrying, we carrying a good long-term conviction. Even if for a couple of years, I think they don't perform, still at the end of it, I think in the compounded basis, they would have performed, I think, eventually. So I think they normally, I think we have seen, I think our portfolios compounding in the vicinity of around 25% plus. So I think we are happy with that part of it. Sometimes I think some stocks don't appreciate, but I think eventually they catch up in subsequent period.
Deven, how about betting on the entire capex theme, be it capital goods companies, infra-related, defense, rail, especially with the budget around the corner? This sector is definitely expected to see a boom.
Absolutely. I think, see, this is, according to me, it's a 10-year story, frankly speaking, for India. Infrastructure spending has just started and it started, I think, big time. Last year budget allocated 7.5 lakh crore. This year it is likely to be 9 lakh crore plus. I think 10-year horizon and the roadmap is about 110 lakh crore spending on infrastructure. So I think a lot of heavy lifting is happening into the economy with most of the giant projects coming into the country. And that is where possibly some of the engineering companies, some of the companies, I think, in the basically precision engineering and materials, including technology companies like ABB, Siemens, and for that matter, even some part of Larsen. I find that I think these are all the companies which would possibly have relatively higher order books to execute in coming period. And that's where probably I think the argument for having them into the portfolio. maybe most of these companies have are quoting at a decent premium. And at this point of time, I think one would not immediately jump into it. But in a corrective market, if the stocks, I think, remain sideways for a very long period of time, that would be the time to buy them into the portfolio and probably, I think, get the maximum out of it.
Devan, is there a trade in OMCs? They were losing money. Now, luckily, looks like they will be compensated and they will make money. These stocks are available at P multiple of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, depending on the estimates. But the estimates are all pointing that they're below 10 times P.
So, Nikunj, I think I'm not a very big fan of government-owned businesses. I think where probably the decisions are taken at the stroke of pen. I think this is unfair that I think if the companies are into listed market, all the decisions are taken by the government. I think in the listed market companies, I think the decision should be left to the independent board of directors, but that's not the case here. And that is one of the reasons for which I think one cannot get confidence of investing into these companies. Imagine, I think, the kind of business in which they have been operating and for such long period of time. Where have they been able to make any kind of an impact or a change? Maybe I think merely growing some part of the capacity, but beyond that, nothing. They could not even change, I think, the business model with the time. So, frankly speaking, I think it requires a drastic change in the way in which I think public sector companies are governed in the country. And that is where probably I think one would like to stay away from it, I think, as far as investments are concerned.
All right. That's the view coming in. Just getting a view then from you, Deven, as to what the outlook is on the entire cement sector as a whole as well. Just building on that infra theme, how would you look at the competition that's picking up within this space, and are there any names that merit a look?
In fact, I think we remain extremely convinced about the prospects going ahead for the cement companies, and particularly those companies which are having pan-India presence. So given the kind of infrastructure projects that we are executing in the country, across the country, I would think that I think companies with pan-India presence with a larger capacity would be relatively better off. Into the smaller pockets of southern India, I think there are many small companies which are probably, I think, suffering more because of the economics of scale. And that's where probably I believe that I think southern pocket, I think you could possibly see some amount of consolidation happening into within the smaller companies. I think the combined ACC Ambuja combined taken over by Adani's definitely I think holds top in the list as far as the opportunity goes. On one side, they are having Gujarat-based ports, I think, where probably they have got the best abilities to transport cement. On the side, I think the mining rights on the limestone, I think they're definitely given a edge. The logistic part of the cement transportation with rail, road, and waterways combined, I guess I think is the best ability which ACC Ambuja would enjoy. And that's where probably I think you could possibly argue going forward and getting higher amount of realization on per ton as far as the profits are concerned. So that is where we probably remain relatively more optimistic. We believe that I think out there they will also have some amount of inorganic growth, including acquisition in some of the pockets where they are not present. Would be definitely I think order of the day going forward.